Yesterday, I had the first high dose mushroom experience I've had in 8 years. And going into this experience, as I shared in my last video, I was not nervous, which itself made me a little bit nervous. I feel like going in with a degree of trepidation is warranted, to say the least, particularly when you're dealing with doses the level that I was going to be at, which is 7.5 grams. But I wasn't nervous until I arrived at the house where I was going to be doing this ceremony. And ceremony is not quite the right word, because I was doing this through a mushroom church that offers these experiences for free, which I think is a wonderful service. But the experiences they offer, it's not a guided journey. There are two trip sitters who are upstairs, you're downstairs, but the idea is you're having your own experience alone, or rather it's you communing with the mushrooms. The trip sitters are just there to make sure you are physically safe. You can call to them and they'll come down if you want, but the idea is that you're having an unmediated experience with the mushrooms, which is precisely what I was looking for. And they administer it via a tea, which is something I have very little experience with. So I got in, and they really kind of science it out. They weigh you, and then they calculate the actual milligrams of the active compound that you're going to be ingesting. And I already knew I was going to be doing a high dose. I knew I was going to be doing a high dose because I tend to have an abnormally high tolerance to these sorts of plants and fungi. Perhaps because I used to be on SSRIs. I've been off of them for 19 years, but I was on high dose SSRIs for 15 years prior to that, and maybe there's a lingering effect. At any rate, I knew I was going to be doing a high dose going in. So I walk into this house, and immediately my anxiety spikes. I meet the two sitters, and they seem nice, but I'm not even registering them. The degree of fear is so intense in my body, and it's bordering on paranoia pretty quickly. And because I'm like, I don't know these people. I know the founder of the church who set this up for me, but I don't know these people. And I don't even know the founder of the church that well. And I don't know this house where I'm at. Like, what am I doing here? Can I trust these people? That was the paramount consideration in my head. And there was no reason to think I couldn't, but yet, yeah, I was very scared. I think really what was going on, and I was aware of this in the moment, is basically I'm scared because I'm about to embark on this journey. And there's usually fear, and there hadn't been up to this point, and now all the fear is kicking in, and it's attaching itself to the circumstances, the fact that I don't know these people. But the fear was so intense that I seriously considered turning around and walking out. But I didn't. I came there for healing. I wanted to get healing. And I shared with them, because as you know, if you know me, I pretty much share everything with everyone, that I was experiencing a lot of anxiety and second thoughts, and they were very much like, no pressure. You can do whatever you want to do. But at this point, I'd fasted all day. I was like, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And there is literally no ceremony, no chanting, no prayers, no ritual offerings. They just hand me a cup of this tea and I down it. And it was very mild tasting, which surprised me, but they filter it and they have their whole protocol. They boil it 3 times, they strain it. And then I go down to my room and I lie down and I wait. And as time passes, I'm surprised that I'm not tripping. 15 minutes in, I expected to feel something with the tea, nothing. 30 minutes in, definitely I should feel something. And I am feeling something 30 minutes in, but it's mild at best. And so 45 minutes in, I go up, head up the stairs to talk to the sitters. And as soon as they see me on the stairs, they start freaking out. They're like, what are you doing? You can't be going up these stairs. And I'm like, why not? And they're like, because you're going to fall. You're on this huge dose. And I'm like, I'm fine. I actually said I could drive a car right now. I definitely couldn't drive a car, and I should say that they take away your car keys when you arrive, which is harm reduction. I applaud. So I couldn't have driven a car, but I had no trouble navigating stairs, and I sat down with them, and they were like, well, do you want some DMT? Because in this particular church, if you don't fully break through on the mushroom dose, they maintain that if you vaporize DMT, it'll actually pop you into the same space you would be in at the stronger mushroom dose. I explained that in a confusing way. So essentially, in this church, the goal is to have what they call a breakthrough dose. And I'll give you a little bit of context around this. When I walked into this house and I saw the room I was doing it in, it's totally bare walls. It's not a welcoming environment. But they say when you do the breakthrough dose, you don't even know where you are, so it should be totally irrelevant. What the founder of the church says famously, and what he told me, he said, if you're bored alone in that room, that means I didn't give you enough, because you have nothing else down there with you. They didn't let me take my journal. I don't have my phone, no music, nothing. And so, yeah, the goal is this breakthrough dose, and they've actually figured out specific percentages, like a certain, based on your body weight, if you take this many milligrams of, I'll use the euphemism, the active compound in mushrooms, it should get you to a breakthrough dose. And they'd given me 140% of what they calculated was the typical person's breakthrough dose, but I clearly had not broken through. I was very much aware of my surroundings. And so they said, well, if you smoke DMT right now, that will pop you into that same breakthrough mushroom space. You won't have a DMT trip, and a stereotypical DMT trip, it'll pop you through that mushroom space. And this presented a conundrum for me because I have OCD. It is generally much better, but my OCD is about decision making, and now I had to make a decision. Do I want to try to break through on DMT? I have a lot of experience with mushrooms. I would say I inherently trust mushrooms at this point based on my experience. And based on the fact that mushrooms essentially created the world. Trees wouldn't exist. We wouldn't exist without them. They're just such a fundamental part of reality that if you don't trust mushrooms, you can't really trust this reality. I'll make another video about that because I think there's a lot to that. But the point is, I trust mushrooms, more or less. There's trepidation. But DMT I have very, very little experience with. And vaporizing a lot of DMT while I've already taken a large dose of mushrooms, that seemed potentially ill-advised. But yet I want this breakthrough dose. And so for the next half hour, I obsessed. And I was getting very agitated. I was pacing up and down. I was like, no one can tell me what to do. I should just do it, but I don't know. And they were, to their credit, the sitters were like, yeah, do whatever you want to do. But they did say, if you're going to do it, you have to kind of do it now. Otherwise, that window is going to pass to break through. The upshot is I did finally decide to do it. They gave me the vape, and I hit the vape, and I hit the vape, and I hit the vape with almost this fury. I was just like, fuck it, let's just do it. Just kept hitting it. And I didn't break through. Each time I took a big hit, I would feel this rush in my body, this building physical intensity, but it would peter out very quickly. And so there was never any real breakthrough. Later, when I talked to the sitters, they were like, yeah, you probably just missed the window. And maybe that was a sort of unconscious choice I made that, all right, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it when it's kind of too late. I don't know. You can analyze what's going on subconsciously with this stuff infinitely, and without this stuff, not just in the plant medicine world. Clearly, there was a lot of fear, but I think really what had happened, and I talked to the sitters and the founder of the church about this afterwards, is I think the fear I felt when I came in, the sense that can't really trust these people, I think at some level that allowed me to kind of shut down the experience. I also think that even 140% of the normal breakthrough dose may not be enough for me. But I think, yeah, I'm surprised how mild it was. At any rate, once I finally was like, all right, I'm not breaking through, I kind of just enjoyed the typical mushroom afterglow. And it was pleasant, but there was no great insight. So, speaking of decisions, I have another decision to make. I'm in the Bay Area for another couple of weeks, and they have said, hey, do you want to come back? We can up the dose. This experience isn't a bust, according to them, because now they have a baseline. They know what this dose does to me, and so we probably would increase it by about 50%. So this would be, the equivalent of 11.5 grams, which is a lot, but I tend to need a lot. So I'm going to sit on it, but yeah, I'm strongly leaning towards yes. Because I went into this experience with a very clear intention to try to understand this deep shame. I didn't get any clarity on that, and that's okay. I know from experience mushrooms don't necessarily answer your intention. They're in control. You can't dictate to them, but that intention is still present for me. So, yeah, and also just left with gratitude that these people did take care of me and that they are offering this service. So, yeah, not making any hard decisions now, but that is how I am leaning in this moment.